Have you spoken to the players as a group yet, or how do you go about getting the, I guess, overarching message through today?
Yeah, not as a whole today, but we have over the last week been in contact with all players over Zoom platforms. So at the moment we're limited to groups of 8. So my distancing's, I've kept it to about 10 metres. Not about, exactly 10 metres. Any chance I get to catch up with an individual player or even a couple that might be in the vicinity, I'll just touch on a few things, ask a few questions about their knowledge of protocols and what the week looks like. But it's an interesting time.
Has there been anyone with reservations about games or any players?
No, not reservations, no. There's a lot of questions being asked about how it's going to work and how we'll run through it. And we're working through those, and those questions continue to come up, because as you can imagine, there's so many different dynamics with our playing group. And we've got guys who are 19 years of age who have just come to the club, and we've got guys who are 30 who have wife and kids, and they obviously want to do the right thing by their family and make sure their family's looked after.
Matthew, how do you actually go about deciding who's in what group of 8? Like, is it just random, or how do you do it?
Well, there's quite a process. It's not random at all. Most of it's in their line groups. So, we want our backs to be able to work together, mids and forwards. We've also got the guys heading back from the Barossa tomorrow, so we've got some areas there we've got to keep in mind, and we'll keep these groups for the week. So, part of the rules are that if you're in a group of 8, you must stay in that group of 8 until you're next tested, and you need to have a negative test come back for us to then change those groups. So we've got our coaches in a group at the moment, so we can plan for the coming weeks leading into round 2. And we've got our players at the moment that are empowered. They're out there. Daniel Talia is running the back session at this point. So we've got some great leaders in that respect. So it's a good chance for us to let them go to work.
It's a bit hard for you, isn't it? Because you've got those players that can't come out. Is it tomorrow that everyone's then available from the Barossa?
Yeah, tomorrow the boys will head back tomorrow morning. We'll have a weight session in the morning and then some fundamental touch after that. And even when you're doing touch sessions at this point, it's important that you've still got social distancing, so 1.5 metres. So there's some challenges with that, but our guys have really embraced it, and they've been putting together their sessions. They're out there at the moment. As I said before, our backs, going through and getting whatever work they can in, as close to footy as they possibly can.
So much to go through, I know, but I think you can only take 25 football staff. But when you do go, how do you go through who's absolutely required and who perhaps might be understated?
Yeah, welfare's number one. So our player welfare, looking after our people's number one. So you start to talk about, welfare officer, doctors, physios. We've got to get these guys treated, and then we sort of move on to coaching staff as well as dietitians and so on. So we're in a pretty good position in that respect. We've gone through what looks like being our 25, and we're ready to fly out Sunday.
How many coaches do you think sit with you for that first game back in your inbox with you?
Upstairs. We're still going to talk through that over the next couple of days, but it's an interesting space, that one, how many we want on the bench and how many upstairs. But probably 3 up in the box at this point, which allows us to keep our head of development downstairs as well as some of our leadership on the bench. We feel that's a really important area for our guys to be around our players on a game day. We need that calming influence down there. So we might change that up depending on how things are tracking.
You players have spoken about that the messaging might change with a different amount of coaching. How do you think it's going to go that first game back with 3 and 2 or whatever it is?
For us or for the league?
For you?
For us, yeah. We've done whatever we can to limit the amount of messaging on a game day. Do a lot of our work during the week, empower our guys on a game day to run the show, and we're just giving them an oversight or overview of what we can see from upstairs. So hopefully it doesn't change too much for us, but having less voices up there, maybe there'll be slightly less messaging. We do what we can to get our players on the line if we feel it might help them, just being in the ear asking a question, but a lot of it's changed. I think most clubs now, there's a lot less instruction and more listening from coaching groups.
Matty, it might be one maybe for the CEO, but will you push for these games on the Gold Coast to be classed as away games?
It's an interesting one, that one, because depending on who we're playing, obviously against the Gold Coast at Metricon, we would see that as an away game. There's a bit of home field advantage, but there's no crowd. If we play Port Adelaide at Metricon, it's almost a neutral venue. So without speaking out of school, I'm at this point in time, we're just looking forward to playing footy. So I don't have an issue whatsoever, and our players don't. With call it a home or an away game, we'll work through it.
What was the overarching emotion or feeling when blokes rocked up to the place of work for the first time in a couple of months?
Yeah, other than it being unusual to see each other face to face, there was excitement. You could see excitement in all the players as they came in, and a little bit of sort of, it was an unusual feeling because we haven't been here for so long. I don't know if anyone else feels that. It's weird having you guys around. We haven't spoken and been able to see each other either. So I think we're more excited about getting back into footy. I mean, our group, we've got a really, really good, positive young group. We can't wait to get over there and basically get into some contact training. The hardest part this week is going to be we're in level B training, which means we're still social distancing. There's no contact. We won't have any coaches out. We've got one coach out on the ground in an exemption area, staying away from the players. So we basically hand it all over them for this week. They've just got to get it done.
What about sharing that makes everyone for Adelaide? Kosh is a big fan. That doesn't near you guys, are we? Sure, any of that.
I don't have an issue with being with Port Adelaide whatsoever. I mean, we crossed the white line. I think she's on. But I know a lot of our guys, they know each other really well. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of work done behind the scenes, especially this season, in around how the AFL and how the players and coaches are going to do whatever they can to come together and play games. And that's what we're about at this point. And sharing a hotel with Port Adelaide, I have no issue. I know a lot of them well. As I said before, when we play that neutral venue and it's a showdown, well, different story.
Physically, Nixie, I know you haven't seen all the players, missing half the team, but how have they returned comparatively to where, in a normal year, where would you say the players are physically at this stage?
It's hard to tell just at this point. We're monitoring a lot of their training so far. We've had one group go through, which you'd say would be probably the top end of our fitness level, and that's our mids. They look really strong out there. Some guys have got a little bit more shape about them. Obviously, they've spent some time in the gym doing their own sessions, but we'll find out after today and probably the next few days. We'll get a bit more of an idea exactly where the group's at.
Nixie, how long are you prepared to stay up for? It's obviously fixed in 4 weeks, but Killer said he's not sure how long it will go. Nearly 4 is a year flat height. How long are you prepared to do that for?
Yeah, good question. Look, we're going to stay there as long as we need to for us to get games played. That's our focus at this point. We'll just look at it and go, we'll work in 4-week blocks, and we'll do our best to nail those 4-week blocks. That starts with training, and then we get a chance to play. It's a hard one because, as I said before, when you're talking about families, and some of our guys may not take their family over straight away. We'll then have to reassess some of that once we're over there. Is it time now to get some families over? We've got some guys with really young families that it'll be quite tough for. But that's a challenge that we're happy to take on, and we'll stick it out.
So if they're not relaxed, I know we're probably shooting ahead, but the players are accepting of eventually moving state to state just to get football going, keep it going?
Yeah, my word. We'll do whatever we need to do to help the AFL get the games played, and we're part of that.
The AFL's obviously giving you a list of protocols, chapter and verse. On the first glance at that, what's the most difficult aspect of it?
First glance, the 40 pages is not a glance. So there's a fair bit of compliance that comes in around that. We've got a compliance officer who's in charge. He calls himself Captain COVID, but I probably shouldn't say that. But it's a challenge. We're doing our best to educate our players on what that looks like, and the key areas of that, the priorities of how are we going to help the community, how are we going to ensure that we remain safe through this period. As I said, there's a fair bit to it, but at the same time, it's reasonably simple. It's taking no risks. It's protecting, making sure that you're looking after yourself and doing the same with your family.
Is it, or have you spoken about the fact that what happened in the Barossa puts a greater emphasis on this club getting it right?
Yeah, I think with every club, everyone wants to get it right. Not so much for, I guess, the bashing you'll get from the media, but more about just getting it right for the AFL. We want to play footy and we want to do what we can for the community. I think everyone's dying for us, to see some footy. as a coach, I want to get out there and watch our guys play. So we'll make sure we get all the protocols right.
I think Richard Gordon from the AFL, just on the roster, said that it's probably help discussions with the government. Do you feel that was the case, or?
Oh, look, from an SA Health point of view, they've come out and said that it had nothing to do with a decision around borders and a decision on where they currently sit. So, no, we haven't really talked through it at all.
Just on the players, I know it's only early, but do you feel they've lost any condition, or are they as fit as perhaps they would otherwise be, or is that just impossible given what's happening?
It's a hard one. But I feel we've got a pretty mature group in that space. We've had to hold them back with some of the training. We went out reasonably hard early, and we had to sort of readdress that after a month. And our guys have really trained well across the break. So, again, it's a hard one for us to look at this point. We've still got a couple of days to go through to say, okay, well, he's pumping out numbers we need, that's game-like, or we've still got a bit of work to do. And remembering, we've still got a month now before we play that round 2 game, so we're confident we'll get them back in shape.
Are you packing your golf clubs? Are you allowed to pack your golf clubs?
We won't be packing our golf clubs because we're not going to play golf.
Are you allowed to do any sort of outside the base activities? You're allowed to go to the beach, you're allowed to play golf if you want to?
No, at this point in time we can't play golf. There's restrictions around what we can do, so it's essential. It's only essential. If you need food, you need to go to the supermarket, right? You're allowed to do that. If you want to do exercise, you can get out and exercise. But that's about it at this point. And our message to our players is, if in doubt, you're not going anywhere. And I guess as we go through the 40-page document, you get a little bit more detail. There is a lot more in there about surfing and about golf and so on that's not allowed at this point.
How does it work? Sorry. How does it work on the accommodation? You've got Adelaide's players potentially going to a supermarket somewhere, and your players are going to another supermarket somewhere. Then to stay separate, do you share a pool, or seems like there's a bit of grey area?
There's a fair bit of information that's still going to come through around exactly that. Like, what pool will we be using? Will we be crossing with Port Adelaide? Are they setting us up in opposite areas of the hotel? Those details will be coming through to us over the next week. At this point, most of our focus, or all of our focus, has been on the next 6 days or 7 days, which are all in Adelaide, and it's all level B training. So we haven't quite got into the finer detail of Queensland.
If you were to play this weekend, is everyone available on your list injury-wise?
Good question. I can't answer that only because we've got a few still coming back. So, Tommy Duday, Hardigan, they've been going through almost coming back from injury. I couldn't guarantee you that they're ready to go this week. In fact, we definitely wouldn't throw a player out there after not spending the time we'd like to with those players. They've been working in pairs. I reckon we'd need at least 2 or 3 weeks and I'm just using Tommy as an example. We may have a couple of players in that boat.
So what do you want to get out of this week?
Well, this week's we're working on empowering the group because they've got to run these sessions. Being in 8s, we're not going to waste a spot with a coach in those 8. That would then stop us having coaches meetings. So from that point of view, we're looking for our players to step up, really get themselves back into that ability to train on their own, get it right, really come in with some momentum into Monday of next week where we're in Queensland. We're probably a level B session on Monday, and then we get into a level C, which is full contact Tuesday.
So we can head over Sunday?
Sunday, yeah, we'll head over Sunday. Yeah.
Just on families, we do the training without families and it's just, or is it
Yeah, we haven't locked that away yet, but we've had some pretty good discussion around what's best for the group and what's best for families. You look at a number of other sports, they'll often travel first, get over. I mean, we're going there to do a job. We're going over to go to work, and then possibly bring families over at a point maybe a week or 2 later, especially once we know some more details around exactly what it looks like in the hub, what we would need for families and what's appropriate.
Just going back to what you said, the players are asking questions, a lot of questions. Is there a common theme, or what's the main question that they're asking?
It's not really a common theme. I mean, the main questions come from our older guys, and that's around family because it's that's the priority. They're prioritising their family. Our young guys are we're almost having to hold them back at the moment. They're so keen to get over there, and it's a positive for them. So the main questions we're getting around the detail of what it looks like, The AFL have been amazing in the way they've set this up and allowed families to travel and help the players with that. It's now just the detail of that.
Prospect of yourself with that, saying you're fixed for a couple of weeks and your missus, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, we've spent a number of years in a similar position. Unfortunately, when you're a coach, you do work longer hours than what you do as a player. Some of them might argue that, but they won't win that argument. So we've talked through that and the possibilities of maybe down the track, depending on how long we're in that hub for. But at this point, I'll be going over there as just myself.